there, folks, and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka That Tellest Guy. We are going to be taking a look at a new zone in the Tellest Map series. As you can see, most of the work is already done on this version of the map. We're looking at the Kehara Oasis. It is a place that we kind of briefly looked at in my book Dragonspeaker, and it's a place where the Anthro Kitty people are. What is this? What is going on here? My video is being weird. It's a place where the Anthro Kitty people live in Tellest. Well, one sect of them anyway. And this is where Dragonspeaker kind of starts off. So I thought that it would be kind of fun to start breaking into a lot of the places in the stories that we kind of explore and everything like that. So we are definitely going to spend a little bit of time fleshing out this oasis over the next couple of months as we zigzag back and forth into places that we're familiar with and the places that are brand new to us as we kind of continue that A-B pattern. So real quick before we finish this map up and move on to the immediate sequel to this map, and I'll explain why we're going to do that in a little bit, I wanted to kind of explain what I did with the map so far and why that is. So obviously with the Oasis, what I knew I needed to do was have obviously some water, and I needed to have some vegetation around the water. And the reason for that is typically if someone is living around a civilized oasis area, whether by natural occasion or by whoever's living around the oasis, there will be some kind of tree cover or tall vegetation, something along those lines. And the reason for it is because the people who are living there want to protect their water source. There's often going to be things like sandstorms and things of that nature that could damage your water source and make it a little bit less potable. And so that's why typically if you're looking at real natural oases that have been civilized, that have been popularized by people who are making that part of the world their home, they will have stuff like this. In fact, in most cases, it probably looks even busier than this. We wanted to kind of design it this way just so that there was a little bit of you want your characters to be able to kind of weave their way through the world. So we have some empty space in between the trees and things like that. And typically speaking, you're not going to see too many things in the water. You will see there are some fish that sometimes, like in the Sahara Desert and the oases that are there, you will see some fish. Usually they're not like fish that you would see in a pond or like a lake in like a North American suburban pond or anything like that. You're seeing, I guess it's kind of a variation of a catfish. And typically where they're coming from is there's aquifers underneath the ground, and that's where the water is coming from. It's not typically a situation where, hey, we got a lot of rain and that's sitting in the area. In fact, if it was a situation like that, you're more than likely going to have water that's not potable, because unless it's running water, it's going to be full of parasites, and you're going to get bugs and stuff like that. So an oasis is going to offer a little bit more of a sustainability, and we tried to integrate that into what we have for the water feature and then the vegetation around it. So we definitely tried to use this fresh water to kind of explain a little bit of the greenery before it fades into the sand. But it is very much a desert oasis. The Kehara Desert is kind of, it'll feel like an African desert. So there's probably a little bit more northeast, even though it's on the western side of Savion. But in any case, we wanted it to be a place where the tribe that Kayonani is from could live. Typically there are going to be other races and tribes and everything within the desert, and they're all going to have some kind of water feature that's going to keep them alive, whether or not it's an oasis like this or if there's some kind of underground source somewhere on a mountain along the sides of the desert, there needs to be something that they can do here. So again, kind of the southwest side of this map is the Oasis, and the northeast side of the map is going to be where our Kaja, the Anthro Kitty people, are settling in. So we have this tent here is our... He's not our chieftain, he's our Dragonspeaker. So the book Dragonspeaker is all about a bond that a Kaja of this area of the world makes with a dragon. And there is a chieftain of the tribe as well, and we'll probably see them a little bit later as we continue to expand on these maps and things like that. But I wanted this to be Haimedo's tent. Haimedo is the current Dragonspeaker at the onset of the book, and events, of course, occur that might shake up the status quo. But we wanted to have something like that where he could kind of exist here. The other thing is, this Oasis is going to be pretty big because it has to be home to a whole tribe of Kaja. So we're going to end up expanding around in some ways, and at some point we might even have just a full water map, just so that if somebody is taking like a rowboat or something like that, you'd be able to see what that looks like. Again, most oases are not going to have fish like this, but we wanted to kind of lean into the fantasy of it. So we do have some fish here and there that are just living their life, and then we've got some fish here as though some of the Kaja have caught dinner for the day or something like that. So beyond Haimedo's tent, we also have a couple of the citizens. Well, we'll say villagers. We'll say that this is a fairly small village. I have a little sort of straw tent beside the big tent that they can use for working. And then we're going to figure out something to do over in this area to fill it out a little bit. Very, very close to having it done, and then we'll move on to the sequel. I'm pretty sure that I'm comfortable with what we have done in the water, so we're not going to do anything there, not going to add any vegetation. It really is going to be a situation where whatever we figure out here is probably going to finish this up. So let's real quick go to the desert set of stamps and see if there's anything here that kind of makes sense. I don't really think there is, so we're probably going to start looking elsewhere. And it might honestly just be like another tent or something like that, because I don't really think, again, it's the desert should kind of evoke like an Egyptian feel or something like that, but it really is a different vibe altogether. You're going to have the sand and everything that most deserts are known for, but I don't want it to be, you see pyramids everywhere you go and stuff like that. So let's go to the camp one more time and see if there's any tents. We'll probably use this big round tent for when it comes time to do the chieftain's tent. If we do like the star tent here, it's pretty big. I mean, the big tent is technically bigger. It's just that I dialed down the size. So when we do the bigger tent, we're probably not going to dial it back as much. So we're just going to keep it the way that it is. I kind of want it to have like a Bedouin feel. So I'm not a huge fan in this case of using the small tents that they have here with the kind of lean-to looks. And the leather tent really doesn't fit the aesthetic that we've been building. So honestly, if we are going to put another tent in here, we might just grab the same ones that we have and change the color. So we've got this. Let's go to our hue. And let's find something that feels a little bit more. Maybe we'll do a blue tint. And we'll keep this pretty close to the dune. The only problem is that doesn't really give you a lot of room to maneuver or anything like that. So let's do something a little bit more like that. And whoever this person is, they like Haimedo, so we're going to have them angle their tent a little tiny smidge. And I like to try and And if I can, keep things away from the borders. Most of the time when we're doing the maps, nothing gets cut off along the top, the right, or the bottom. It's this left side that gets kind of screwed up when you're doing the big battle maps. The large mouse pads, I should say. So we're going to do something like that. I don't want it to be like they're overbearing to Hymedo. So let's see if we can't find like a partition that they can use. And you're not going to do something like a... you're not going to have a... Whew, my mind is floating today. I got very little sleep last night. You're not going to find a word that was in my head and is not anymore. You're not going to find bedrolls in the desert, typically, because if you get sand in there, you're going to wake up very uncomfortable. You're going to have a rotten day. You might have them inside the tent, but you wouldn't typically have them just hanging about out here. So we're not going to do something like that. But we will. Let's do the campfire over here. It's a different style campfire than the one that we have over there. So it just adds a nice little sense of variety. Let's move this again. I kind of liked having the stakes right there on the borders. And we'll kind of shake it up with the campfire. We'll have that there. And let's get a log or two. Definitely smaller than the size of the tree, so we'll put a couple of these down. And we'll have these ones be facing towards the tent. And that way they're not bothering Hymedo or anything. I do know that I want to throw a table underneath the little straw tent that he's got over there. So let's grab one of these long tables. Make sure that the stamp is under the other ones, and we're definitely going to shift the size of this. Do something like that. So the idea is, you know, he's using this for prep and things like that, and it's hidden by the rest of that tent. So we don't have to do anything crazy there. I feel like I want to add something else right in here. Let's save 15's not a lot, but I do want to save just to get it squared away, make sure that the couple changes that we made aren't lost, and we'll see what we can do. Let's see. And we've used over here the dunes to kind of serve as like a natural partition, but I don't want that to be the sole thing that we do in this area. So let's keep looking. Let's see if there's like an outdoor wall that we can use that looks nice. We've got these desert rock walls that we might be able to use. Desert walls, broken desert stone walls. Let's try this real quick. I'll try to be too crazy with what we're building, but I do want it to seem a little bit like Hymedo's got his stuff together. We're going to end up moving some of this anyway. You okay, Zelda? probably going to adjust the intensity of the shadows. Let's check that out real quick. There we go. I actually like that a little better. Mess with the intensity a smidge. We're actually going to make some changes first, and then when it's time to change everything, it'll make it easier for us to just do a little bit. I want to try and see real quick if I can figure out a way to make it look like it's slowly descending a little bit. So like it tapers off in height. I can't remember. I know for the indoor maps, like what you'll typically do is, I don't know that it's doing what I want it to. You know what? We'll just leave it the way it was. There's a way to make things look a little bit like they're part of like a depth kind of situation. I don't necessarily know that this was the right way to practice it, but at least for now, things look a little bit better than they did. Real quick, might scooch that over a bit. There you go. That feels like it gives Hymedo a little bit more personal space. Let's go into our custom object shadow and yeah, that's a good number, I think. All right, one more peek at everything, make sure everything looks good. Just like with the mountain pond, this might be a map that I come back to kind of clean things up. Haven't gone back to mountain pond yet, but we'll see. I'm going to save this and then let's call it for now. So while that's completing, let's celebrate a little bit. Completed button. One of the things that I completed previously, knowing that I was going to be in a desert region, I thought that it would be fun to do the kind of, hey, we've got some sandstorms rolling in kind of stuff. So I already have this stuff. I just hit it. So real easy to just turn it on, and then you've got something a little bit more weathery and stuff like that. So if you're doing a scenario on this map where these are not Kaja who are just trying to live their life, but they're bandits that made off with some stolen treasure or something like that, maybe your party can come in under the shadow of the sandstorm and sneak their way into some of these tents and stuff like that. So just some cool stuff that you can do. Now we are going to tweak some stuff, so we're going to go back to hiding the sandstorm and getting rid of the red sky. So we're back to normal, and what we're going to do instead of any of that goofy stuff is we're going to get immediately into our sequel. Probably not going to get very far with it just because, like I said earlier, I'm flagging, and I think 10 minutes from now is a good time to wrap things up on a sleepy day. So let's do a resize map, new map from region. And we are going to go to about 40, I think. Pretty darn close. But we need to make sure that we're going to the left. Now if we confirm and say no, don't get rid of my stuff. Not that it should anyway, because we are in the we're adding to the map, not taking away from it. How's everybody doing? You good? That's good. All right. So, at this point, we should have something that we can use a little bit better. Come on. We good. We good, Misery says. Alright. So what you can see here is this was the map that we had, and this is what we're going to be building towards. So what we'll start to do is on the foreground layer, we're going to put some of our sand back. Let's actually real quick do something like this. We're going to throw this into the corner and then bring it up, and this will tell us what areas we can kind of play with. So let's change the opacity so that we have a little bit of an overlay, and then we'll get rid of that when we don't need it. But yeah, so what we're going to do is on the foreground layer, we are going to, it helps to have a foreground layer. So let's do this first. And then we'll start to carve out our not foreground layer. But the first thing that we'll do, we'll bring the size to 15. That doesn't seem right, but for all intents and purposes, we're going to be changing most of that anyway. Okay. So following the direction that we went with the oasis that we already have, what we have to do is start to take some of the landmass away. I think that what we're going to do, again, this is supposed to be a relatively large oasis, and I think what we're going to do is we're not even going to reach the western end of this just yet. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab my stylus, and we are going to continue moving on up. But I don't want to go too high. We're actually going to, around here, start to stabilize and round it off. And on the next map over from here, what we would do is start to kind of turn it the other way. So you can see it's starting to go that way. In fact, that might be a little too much. So let us do something like that. Because I want the next map to be where that focus is. So over here now, what we're going to do, all this is going to be water. You definitely get a little bit more water on this map than you do on the other one. Okay, and I don't need this anymore. What we're going to do is get that kind of soft sand. So we'll do, let's hide this again. I want to make sure that I'm getting the right sand. I don't think that it's this sand up here. It might be, actually. But I think what we do is we go over it with more of the golden color. And especially down here, well, we're going to actually go to the background layer. And yep, that looks like what we did down here. What we're going to do is cover this over with the water, and then you're not going to ever completely get rid of the sand in a desert oasis. So this will help us to kind of tell that story a little bit. And I think, yeah, we don't want to go too much in that regard. Let's do kind of like 40 and play with it a little bit. I feel like that dirt look is not the one that we used. So let's go back out and let's do, again, kind of like this darker sand. We'll use this, and then we'll do some practice runs real quick and see what it looks like. A little too dark, but I think it sells what we're trying to do, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Let's do a real quick save. So we're going to just call this one West, because I don't really know what the focus is going to be on this just yet. I do know we talked previously about having like a little rowboat there for people to get into the center of the oasis. We'll do something like that. We will have, again, more of these trees kind of in the area to, you know, protect from sand and those kinds of things. Let's head back to the original map. Whew. Everything's low and slow today. And we'll see if the opacity settings are retained on this version of the map. Nope, no dice. Well, that stinks, but at least we have the catalog set up to give us what we want. It's just figuring out the opacity and everything. So just like in a lot of cases, I've got a little bit of homework to do, but at least we finished one map, and we were able to see at least one of the variants that we'll end up using, and we'll probably just do a night version for the other one, and we'll go from there. But we are getting close to half past, so let me go to our show closing screen. Folks, on the screen right now, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest on the World Wide Webs. Tellest.com is, of course, probably going to be your first stop, because that will bring you to all the other places out there. But if you are here, you might as well just take a look at some of these other ones. Patreon.com/Tellest is where you're going to be able to find these maps in digital form. We do, usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as we have them, versions of these maps in high res and variants. And we're thinking about spicing that up a little bit. As the Kickstarter kind of unwound, I started to do point of interest documents for all these, so we might add that at a higher level. I have to see how that all shakes out, but chalky milk, I think. Misery. I would love a chalky milk. Anyway, so you can find that kind of stuff on Patreon. You can, by the way, we are up to 62 maps now, so you sign up on Patreon, you get 62 maps right away, which is pretty badass. You also can find us on youtube.com/@worldoftellest. You're going to want to go there if you want to see some of our old streams that we've done, because Twitch does eventually clean things up. You're only allowed to have, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks worth of content. But we move everything over there so you can see these kind of things kind of come together. But twitch.tv/thattellestguy is where you're going to want to go if you want to see us do these things live. Now, today was a short show, but usually I'm going about an hour longer if I have people in the chat who want to figure out what we're doing and talk about their own D&D experiences and stuff like that. If you want to do the physical premium goods, and that includes jumbo 20 by 40 inch gamepads. Actually, they're like 38 inches by 19 or something like that. But anyway, pretty big maps. that we do here, but you can get them on, awesome polyester mouse pads. You can get them at the Etsy store. Rihanna also has her awesome Weird Witch wands. They're handcrafted, one-of-a-kind wands that are selling out pretty quick these days. You might want to get on those. You can find those there, as well as posters, other mouse pads, bookmarks, art books, tabletop games, all that kind of stuff. And then the last two places that I want to bring your attention to are our two TikTok channels. TikTok.com/@WeirdWitchWands is where you can see those wands that Rihanna's working on. She's showing them off. They're close to being done, if not completely done, and ready to go up on the Etsy store. Very cool seeing her figure out how to kind of fit those to whatever musical accompaniment and everything like that. And then if you want to see our dogs, you can find them on TikTok.com/@TalesOfTellest, and there's an Instagram with that name as well. And just make our dogs famous, and I'll be happy. So my voice is starting to go, and the only cure is more chalky milk. So I'm going to let everybody go. I appreciate anybody who catches this after I'm gone, and I miss you.